You're listening to the IFF TV podcast.
Hello, welcome to Irish Football Fan TV. We're here with our match preview. I'm joined by Paul Tierney, Gary Spain, and the one and only Matt Holland. Matt, firstly, thanks for taking the time out to have a chat with us.
No problem at all. Hope you're all good.
All good, all good. So we're here to talk about Ireland mainly because we did a Serbia preview with Milos from Serbian Footy, or the Serbian Football Show last night, and he kind of gave us the lowdown on Serbia. And they're in actually a great bit of health in terms of their squad, and a lot of their players are forward. The only thing is they're all kind of getting to know each other a little bit, and the manager doesn't get that long to work with them. But we're just going to focus mainly on Ireland in this video, really. And I'm just going to pull up the squad here. We've obviously had a lot of injuries, but the squad is, as of last night, Mark Travers, Gavin Bazunu, Kieran O'Hara as the goalkeepers. Defenders, Seamus Coleman, Matt Doherty, Shane Duffy, Enda Stevens, Kieran Clark, Darragh O'Shea, Ryan Manning, Cyrus Christie and Darragh Lenihan. Midfielders, Alan Brown, Jeff Hendrick, Jason Malumbi, Jason Knight, Josh Cullen, Connor Coventry. Wingers, Robbie Brady, James McLeod, Daryl Horgan and Ronan Curtis. And then our strikers are Callum Robinson, Aaron Connolly, Shane Long, James Collins and Troy Parrott. Just seen on the FAI's Twitter account there that all players tested negative as well, so that means that will be the squad barring any injuries or anything like that. So Matt, obviously we're missing a host of players. I suppose, and I know you've worked a little bit with Mark Travers in terms of you've had him on your show and you've done a couple of interviews and probably watched Bournemouth a lot closer than any of us, but Stevens basically came out and said that he's going to be the one after Caoimhín Kelleher to be starting. So I know he did well in that game against Spurs, but how's his kind of development came on? Because we don't really get a chance to see him that much as probably you would.
I was actually down at Bournemouth this weekend, watched their game against Southampton, but of course he's not number one at Bournemouth, so that's a bit of an issue. Hasmir Begovic has got that job. I like his temperament. I like his attitude to the game. He's not someone that dwells on mistakes. He's someone that can put that to the back of his mind. But at the same time, it's a big challenge for him. You know, we're talking about a position here where we've got problems. He's untested, really. I know he's made his debut, but untested really at this level. So it is a challenge for him. But as you say, having interviewed him, having spoken to him, I think he's got the personality to deal with, the pressure which comes with playing a game of this magnitude. I
think just with the fact that Mick brought him in during that time and he had him around the squad, he was kind of a deputy to Dan Randolph, but at this stage everybody has been because he's just been that good and he's going to be a huge loss in this case. But the fact that Mark has kind of been in and around the camp, he'll have that kind of camaraderie with the lads and stuff like that. So I think in some ways it's the one that makes sense rather than say throwing Gavin Bazunu into the mix or something like that. I think it is the next kind of rightful person to come into that slot,
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think the same as well. It's not like he hasn't just been thrown in. He does know the setup. He knows how things are done. He knows a lot of the players. He's got to build up relationships with them. As I say, he's not a quiet lad. He's someone that will mix in with the players as well. And that's a position where you have to have a bit of personality as well, because it's a lonely place being a goalkeeper. So absolutely, I think he's the next cab off the rank, and it's the right decision to go with him.
Gary?
Yeah, Matt, I agree it's probably the right decision, but you think his lack of game time could be a problem on Wednesday night, because he's got very little game time this season. He tried to go out on loan and unfortunately ended up getting recalled from Swindon, so he hasn't got any real game time. And I know Gavin Bazunu was playing in the third tier with Rochdale, but at least he's getting regular football.
That's the conundrum, isn't it? I guess for a manager, and he's got to make that decision. And it is tough, I think. Probably tougher for goalkeepers as well when you're not playing regularly as well. I mean, I know you don't have to have the fitness issues particularly, but the sharpness and it's a difficult one for Stephen Kenny to decide on. But I think the fact that he's been around the place, knows the setup, I think it makes sense to go with him.
Just obviously, we're kind of looking at the other end of the scale. I mean, our strikers, again, you kind of spoke there about, well, Gary did about players not playing, and I mean, you got Callum Robinson, who's not really getting a look in at West Brom. Aaron Connolly's been in and out through different reasons, cracked rib, and then obviously a breach of COVID and stuff, so he missed out the weekend, but it looks like he'll be fresh for Ireland. Shane Long actually has been getting a run of games. James Collins been coming on and off the bench, and then Troy Parrott scored his first professional goal there last week, after, I suppose, a long spell without a goal. Is that a worry as well, Matt, in your opinion? You know, it doesn't scream goals to me, you know.
No, and I know you've already talked about Serbia on a previous show. They look like they've got plenty of goals in their team. It's problems at both ends of the pitch, isn't it, for Stephen Kenny? It's been a story really since he took over. He's had issues with injury, issues with COVID, people being pulled out, and now he's got a massive issue at both ends of the pitch. I think there aren't enough goals in our team. Simple as that. I think, you know, everyone can see that. I mean, I'm of the opinion that we should potentially even change system. I mean, I know it's late in the day now, and Stephen Kenny's been in charge 8 games, but I personally think with the personnel that we've got, it suits playing a back three, and it suits playing 2 up top. And you could play, I think you could play Robinson and Connolly as slightly split strikers, and get a number 10 into the team. You know, play Alan Brown in that position potentially, and try and offer more of a threat going forward, and play 2 wing backs. You know, I look at our team and think that the players suit it. I mean, I know he's not had a great season, Matt Doherty at Tottenham. But he's been playing in the back 4, which, you know, at Wolves, that wasn't his position. He was a wing back. He looked to get forward. The central defenders, I think, suit playing a back 3. I know Egan's out, but you know, Ender Stevens could quite comfortably play in a back 3. Shane Duffy can play in a back 3. Kieran Clark's comfortable playing in the back 3. I just think Seamus Coleman could play. I think if you just talk about Coleman or Doherty, you could play both of them. You could play Coleman in a back 3, and Matt Doherty's slightly further up on the right hand side, and the runs that he makes getting into the box as well. I think he offers a goal threat. But that's something that I would potentially look to try and do, because there aren't enough goals in the team. You've got to look to do something different to try and rectify that. Paul?
Yeah, and just as you were saying, if you're playing Alan Brown in the 10, who would you have as the 2 midfielders just behind them?
It's a different. I mean, obviously with Connor pulling up and obviously missing out in this game, I think he potentially would have started.
I'll just pull up the midfielders on screen for you there, Matt, in case you were.
Yeah, no, I think, look, Jason Knight's been in great form, and Josh Cullen's been doing well at Anderlecht as well. So, look, we're lacking a bit of experience really in there as well. Obviously, Jeff Hendrick's the most experienced player, but his form's been up and down. I was at Brighton at the weekend, and you know, came off the bench and didn't necessarily influence the game. Didn't get involved as much as we'd like him to do, and know he's capable of as well. So you may be looking at Jason Knight and Josh Cullen as the 2 midfield players at the base, and Alan Brown as a number 10.
Yeah, I'd agree myself. Yeah,
I think you're spot on with that formation, because we'd said it on previous shows, Gary, and Gary thinks that Stephen's too stubborn to change, but he has openly said in press conference that he would be open to it. And I think in this case scenario, we need to get off to a flyer in this group, whether it's I'm not saying we're going to go out and win, but like obviously the aim in every game is to go out and try and win. But I think the likelihood is the best we'll probably get in this game is a draw, without being too pessimistic. Like, I'm as optimistic as they come, but with all the injuries and everything else we have, going to Serbia and trying to get a win with our first full strength team would be an achievement anyway. Never mind your kind of threadbare squad. But as you said there, Seamus Coleman has played as a third centre-back for Everton in certain games when Carlo Ancelotti has kind of looked to shore up games. So and he's been working with Carlo Ancelotti for over a year now. So I think tactically and defensively, I think Seamus has actually become a better player. I think Ancelotti's gotten a bit more out of Seamus, especially recently. What you said about Matt Doherty is absolutely, spot on. I think himself and Enda Stevens naturally should play in a wing-back position. I know it's not Stevens' normal system, as you say. But then you got like maybe Duffy and Clark, who were playing together at the Euros. They have a good understanding and good partnership, and you've got Dara O'Shea there as well, who's a good ball playing player, which is what Stephen wants. So there is. Luckily enough, we still have quite good defenders in there. You've got Ryan Manning as well, who'll probably just be a sub, but you do have the personnel, as you said, Matt, to play that system. And the two up top, I had said for probably the last month that I think Connolly and Robinson as a front two would probably work, because Connolly plays in a front two, and Robinson's been playing largely as a centre forward for West Brom when he's played this season. I know, albeit he's probably a lone striker, but the fact that the two of them kind of just busy up there and causing problems, I think is really good. Gary, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just to follow on as well from that, and it's just a thinking on, Matt had mentioned experience, and I just wonder, there's a couple of calls that may come down in experience. You mentioned Jeff Hendrick, was probably a call in midfield as the more experienced, maybe against somebody who's maybe not in better form. And the other one at the back is Shane Duffy, who's got tremendous experience and has always played so well for us. But he's in not good form club-wise. And Dara O'Shea, who's obviously much less experienced, seems to be in much better form. And I'm just wondering, away in Belgrade, what does Matt think Stephen will make the call on?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. When you look at the team, it's largely inexperienced, and you're looking at obviously changing the goalkeeper who's going to be not have played too many games. I think it's important that we do have experience in the lineup. That's why Seamus Coleman, I think, has to play, and I think he has been in top class form as well for Everton. Then he has got a big call on certain individuals, like you say, Hendrick and Duffy. My feeling is that he'll go with Shane Duffy. Simply because he's never let him down. He's not let Stephen down, that's for sure. And when you are going to Belgrade, and this is our most important game, ultimately, if we're looking at qualifying, the likelihood is it's going to be through a playoff, and the likelihood is that we're fighting with Serbia for that position. So, this away from home is a vital game to start the campaign, and I do wonder whether he probably will err with caution. I think he will go with Shane Duffy at centre half. I don't know about Jeff Hendrick. I don't know about whether he will go with him or not, but certainly Coleman will play, and I think Duffy will as well.
Paul, did you raise your hand there, or was that just me thinking you did?
Yeah, I actually have a question anyways, just in relation to Matt Doherty. Do you think the reason it hasn't gone as well from at Spurs is because they don't play the style that they did at Wolves, which suit them so well? He was probably right back in the season a couple of times as well.
Definitely. I think he can play as a fullback. But he's a better wing back. Every time I watch him, I think when he plays in that system as a wing back, he looks like a goal threat. He looks like he's going to get into positions where he can affect the game at the other end of the pitch. Now, I know ultimately people will say, well, he's in the team to defend, he's in the team to stop goals. Yeah, but even fullbacks now, the role of a fullback has changed massively. You look at most teams now, a lot of the attacking comes from the two fullbacks. And I just think it suits him more when he's got that license to go forward and doesn't have to worry about the other side of the game as much. And when we are a team that lacks goals, which we do, and lacks a goal threat, I think you should get players into positions where they can affect the game the other end, and he does that.
Yeah, definitely, I'd agree. I think if you did play that formation you mentioned as well, he wouldn't get caught out as much. It's simple as, because there's an extra man behind him. So, I'd be completely up for that, yeah.
And if it was Seamus as well, on that right side of a back three, who's more than comfortable being dragged out into wide positions as well and dealing one-on-one in those situations. I think that's important as well. If you are going to play a back three, that you have people in that back three who are comfortable being dragged out into wide positions and dealing with it as a fullback, maybe. Seamus can do that, no problem.
Yeah, definitely.
We just want to interrupt this video for a short break to speak about our sponsors, Manscaped. Support for Irish Football Fan TV is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming and trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. If you're on the market for some beautiful balls, we have an exclusive offer for our listeners. 20% off and free shipping by going to manscaped.com/IFFTV. We've all had a go at trying to trim ourselves down below, and more often than not have ended up cutting or nicking ourselves. This is definitely not the case with Manscaped. because they've created the best ball hair trimmer in human existence, the Lawnmower 3.0. Their third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin safe technology. I just got my replacement blade and gift in the mail. It was perfect timing because you have to upgrade the blade after some uses for a fresh cleanup. Replacement blades come in their brand new Peak Hygiene plan. This plan is a member portal to manage your membership preferences and is available across Europe, Australia and the US. Enroll in the Peak Hygiene plan and get an update every 3 months, replenishment of your favourite products and replacement blades delivered directly to your door, hassle free. This portal allows you to build a combo and mix and match some of my favourite Manscaped products. Whether you want a fresh blade and some ball deodorant or foot spray and some ball wipes, your member price stays the same. There are also plenty of member advantages like member exclusive pricing to products like their new refined cologne and their life-changing Lawnmower 3.0. Just snap off your Lawnmower 3.0 or Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer head every couple of months and replace it with a new one, making sure you maintain the closest and cleanest shave possible. That way I can assure you the most hygienic set of testes in town. Your replenishment pack always comes with a free gift. This month we got the Foot Duster Foot Deodorant Spray. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code IFFTV at manscaped.com. That's 20% off free shipping by going to manscaped.com/IFFTV. Put handsome on autopilot with the new Peak Hygiene plan from Manscaped. Support them because they support us. The link is in the description. Check it out now.
Yeah, I agree, Matt. I think we have the players to play that system. The only caveat is that Stephen has, I know he said he's not averse to playing a back three, but he has always gone with 4-3-3. That's what he was so successful with in Dundalk, and that's the system he likes to play. And do you think he's likely to do it either on Wednesday or on Saturday without having tried it in friendlies first?
That's what I mean. I think we should have been trying it. I think it's a system that we should have been looking at, particularly with the personnel that we've got. It's been difficult for him, as I say, with the injuries, a number of people that have been out. You know, it's been so unsettling, and it's been very difficult for him to get a team out that you know we would all say is his best team, if you like. But I would have been testing it. I think it's likely he'll stick with what he knows and what he's always done. So I think it's unlikely that he'll play a back three. I'm just saying from my point of view, looking at it and looking at the personnel and how it suits our players, that's what we should do.
Yeah, because I'm just looking, we've obviously got the two crucial games first, and then we've got the Qatar friendly, and we haven't announced any friendlies yet for June, but there are going to be a couple of friendlies. So I think it's more likely we'll see the back three and that formation in some of the friendlies, and maybe that would be in Stephen's thinking for Portugal away on the 1st of September, when again we're likely to be under the cosh a lot for the game.
Well, I just going back to what you said about, you know, Shane Duffy, and I'm not letting him down. You got to remember that game against Wales when, you know, Matt Doherty had to play centre back. Shane Duffy coached Matt Doherty at centre back throughout the whole game, and that experience in there is absolutely invaluable. Like, we didn't have a centre back to come on. Cyrus Christie had to come on and play right back in that game, and I watched Shane Duffy that game as I was at it. And he coached Matt Doherty, and Matt Doherty didn't even look out of place at centre back. And you wouldn't necessarily, we spoke there about him being not really a great defender in such terms, but when he's actually made to sit and the game's in front of him and he has to defend that way, he wasn't that bad at all. And he was getting on the ball and stuff like that. But I think, yeah, as you mentioned, having Seamus there as well, you know, being dragged out to the wider parts of the pitch or whatever, that's his natural game. And defensively, Seamus is a much better defender than Matt Doherty, and probably I would say in the other scale of things, Matt Doherty, as we know, is a really good goal threat and is much better in terms of getting up the pitch. You remember the game against Denmark when he scored the goal? That was I think our last competitive goal, wasn't it? Under Mick. That was Mick's last game, I think, before obviously then COVID came in, and obviously it kind of moved things around. But Matt, just obviously you've played under Mick McCarthy, and then we have now Stephen Kenny, who's, in my opinion, I've watched all the games. Between myself and Gary, we've both been at the games and obviously then seen them on TV. But like, I actually have to say, bar the England game, I thought we've played quite well in games. But as you say, it's just that lack of goals. Have you been impressed by Stephen Kenny's style of play, and how different is it obviously to Mick's? Because you would have watched Mick after playing with him, obviously with Ipswich and stuff as well.
Well, clearly there's been a change, hasn't there? And a change of emphasis under Stephen. Wants to be a more passing-based style of play, looking to play through the thirds. And I think the style has been easy on the eye. I think there's been some encouraging signs watching them, despite the results. But to win games, you've got to score goals, and if you're going to be let down by that end of the pitch, then that's obviously a major issue. I think with Mick McCarthy, people sort of say he's a pragmatic type of manager, someone that sort of works on the defensive side of the game first. But if you ask Mick if he's got the players, then he's going to play a more open, expansive style of football. And we look back at the World Cup in my time. He played Duffer up front and Robbie Keane up front. It was a different way of playing that with certainly Duffer higher up, and it was a bit more expansive, if you like, in terms of his style of play. It all depends on what you've got available, doesn't it? I can understand Stephen wanting to put his stamp on it and wanting to do it his way, and there's no point in taking the job and then saying, right, we're going to rip it all up and we're just going to go long. We're going to try and get the second balls. We're going to try and play in their half. It's not his way of playing. We've brought him in to do a job in terms of changing it. He's looking to change it. It hasn't worked so far because ultimately we don't look like we're going to score a goal, and that's why we haven't won games. So he's got to find a way now of getting that bit of the pitch right. And there's no way he should sacrifice his principles and the way he wants to play, because that's why he got the job in the first place. That's what he's been asked to do, and that's why he got the job.
Do you just think, like, looking at it, obviously, like, I've seen a lot of people online saying that maybe he should look to try and change to suit. You've obviously said that there, but do you think that's kind of going away from it? Do you think this is more, we have to be a bit more patient as fans? Like, obviously, between all of us here, we're willing to be quite patient, but there's a lot of fans that probably aren't, and we have to remember Stephen doesn't get that much time to actually work on anything, and you might not see a big change till probably he gets that training camp in, I think it's June. They're supposed to have a training camp, and he'll have 2 weeks or something like that to kind of work with the team on a kind of full scale capacity without any kind of interruptions or distractions or anything like that.
It's so difficult, isn't it, when you don't get the time on the training field? I mean, the turnaround now between these games finishing and the next one, Serbia now on Wednesday night. It's he's got minimal time to implement any sort of style. So I think it's been incredibly difficult, particularly this season with the COVID issues and the condensed season and how tight it's all been. He's hardly had a chance on the training ground to work with these players at all, and that makes it even more difficult. I mean, even club managers are moaning that they haven't had time on the training ground with their players. Well, international managers have had a fraction of the time that the club managers have had on the training ground. So I do have sympathy in that respect that he hasn't had a chance to really have time with the players and say exactly what he wants them to do.
Yeah, but I just think, that fans are being a little bit impatient. I didn't think people realise when you actually go back and look at the squad that Stephen's picked, a lot of the players, obviously, that there was so much havoc wreaked upon the squad from COVID that was just ridiculous. Like, players were just dropping like flies. And I think people forget that when they look at the results, they don't really remember the personnel, the players that were in the squad at the time as well. And I think even sometimes we're probably guilty of it too,
I have got sympathy, with the hand he's been dealt as well. I mean, you look at the problems that he's had with the injuries, COVID, lack of time on the training ground. You can make excuses left, right, and centre. Ultimately, as well, there's been a lot of players out of form. There's been a lot of players who haven't been playing at the level that we've seen previously. That again makes it more difficult. David McGoldrick retiring. I mean, not that he was, necessarily prolific in a centre forward position. So there's been lots of things, and you throw it all into the pot, and it's made it really difficult for him.
And the video as well, the video, all that coverage as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's another sort of contributing factor to the difficulties that he's faced since taking over. There's been lots of little things that have contributed to make it a difficult job. Ultimately, you look at the squad, and on paper, you compare our squad to Serbia's. Who would you rather be in charge of?
There's no comparison, really, is there?
So, I mean, that's you get dealt your cards, and you have to do the best you can with the cards that you're dealt. And it's been tough for him.
I think you're right there, because obviously we spoke to Milos last night, and he was just going on listing the players that are in form and scoring regularly in Serie A, and Vlahovic had just set up a goal for Fiorentina against AC Milan and stuff, and we're there basically scraping the barrel, hoping that one of our players will score a goal in League One, you know.
Yeah, I just wanted to come in as well, Matt. And do you think Anthony Barry may have an influence in these games and possibly conjure up a goal from a set piece? Maybe that's where our goals are going to come from.
Possibly. I mean, it'd be interesting to see. Again, it's not a lot of time, is it, on the training ground to work on it. But I'm sure he'll have ideas. And him and Stephen will have been talking regularly about what they can do. And actually, set pieces. If you're talking set pieces, then Shane Duffy comes into that, doesn't he? That's another reason why you would select Shane Duffy as well, because he is a threat from set pieces. So again, it's difficult when you haven't you only got a couple of days really on training ground to work on those things. But I'm sure that is an area of the game where we will be looking to exploit.
Kieran Clark could be a threat from set pieces as well.
Yeah, Kieran's decent in the air as well. So, I'm sure it's an area where they will be looking at.
Sorry, Gary, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I thought you'd finish what you were saying. I was going to jump on to just our score predictions then, because I feel like we've kind of covered everything from that base. So, look, I'm just going to go through the form guide really quickly. It's not going to be exciting or anything like that, so don't worry. We've scored 1 goal since the Stevens taken over the Bulgaria game, the last minute. Shane Duffy, that was a 1-1 draw against Bulgaria. Ireland, Finland, we lost 1-0. We obviously lost to Slovakia on penalties. We drew 0-0 with Wales after being down to 10 men. James McLean gets it off. Finland, we lost 1-0 again. That was away. We lost 3-0 to England. Lost 1-0 to Wales with 10 men as well there. And then drew 0-0 with Ireland and Bulgaria. But just, Matt, I'll start off with you. Honestly, what do you think the game will be on Wednesday?
Thanks. Heart or head? Crikey. I mean, look, the head tells you it's going to be really difficult. And the head tells me that we're going to do well to get a result. I think it's the most important game. The 2 games with Serbia, I think, are the most important ones. I'd take a draw. I'd take a draw right now, and I've got my fingers crossed we'll get one. I'm not saying it overly positively, but I would take a draw now. What score? 1-1 or 0-0? Probably more likely 0-0, isn't it? With our lack of goal. I probably more likely 0-0. All right, Paul Tierney, what's your goals? Because me and Gary gave ours last night. I don't think mine has changed, but I'll give it anyway.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I think we can get something off them over there. I'm going to go 1-1 on Wednesday. I think we'll win 3-1 here on Saturday. And then against Qatar, obviously, I don't know what they're like at all, to be honest. And I know it's just a friendly, but I think we might beat them 2-1 maybe. All right, Gary, have you changed from last night's score prediction?
No, last night my heart was saying 1-1. The head is probably saying 2-0 to Serbia, but I'm going to go with my heart. And I think we can score, actually, believe it or not. And I'm going to go for 1-1.
Yeah, well, I think that's what Milos is saying. It was their defence was their weakest part. So if we can manage to exploit that, I don't know, maybe someone like Aaron Connolly, if he's on top form or whatever. I went with 1-1 as well, the famous 1-1 result. So I'm hoping that'll be the case, because we just need to obviously just make sure we try to get a result as best as possible. And a result would be a draw in this case scenario. And obviously a win would be an absolute massive bonus. But I think if we're all trying to be realistic and kind of optimistic at the same time, I think that's fair enough, isn't it, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we'll take that. We'd absolutely take it, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can take an early goal lead. Matt, I wanted to say huge thanks for taking the time out for joining us. It's always a pleasure having you on, and really great insight. Thanks very much. Pleasure. Good to see you all, and fingers crossed for Wednesday. Absolutely. Guys, don't forget to check out this video. Leave a like on the video, and don't forget to subscribe. We'll speak to you all soon. Thanks for watching.